I guess you think you have everything now, huh? The words slapped me across the face harder than her actual hand ever could. My stepdaughter, no, my daughter, because I raised her like my own, stood there in her silk blouse and red lipstick, clutching the house keys like she'd earned them. Her voice cracked with entitlement as she shoved the paperwork into my chest. Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this, and also comments where you are watching from. Thanks. Mom's gone, and this place is mine now. You were just the babysitter. A glorified maid. She left this to me, not you. My jaw tightened, but I didn't flinch. Not even an inch. The living room was filled with shadows of memories. I taught her to walk here. I sang her to sleep here. I wiped her tears when her mother missed recitals, missed birthdays, missed everything. And now this? This is how it ends? I looked her dead in the eye. Is that what you think? That all these years I was just waiting for a paycheck and a pat on the back? She scoffed and tossed her designer purse on the couch like it was trash. You were paid. Mom gave you a job when nobody else would hire you. You should be grateful. Grateful? For raising a child like my own while her birth mother chased men in Miami? For cleaning vomit at 3 a.m. when she got food poisoning and cried for me, not her actual mom? For being left out of every family photo, every holiday trip, every public acknowledgement? Grateful? My voice was shaking now, but not with fear, with years of suppressed heartbreak that had finally reached its boiling point. You have no idea what your mother really thought of me. Her eyes rolled so hard they nearly flipped backward. Don't start with your "I loved you like my own" speeches. It's pathetic. Pathetic. I stepped closer. She didn't move. The tension crackled like thunder in the air between us. You think I stayed for the money? You think I tolerated the yelling, the drinking, the broken promises because I was grateful? She laughed. You really are delusional. My heart hammered. But I wasn't going to let her rewrite history. Not this time. Your mother came to me when she was broke. Flat broke. No alimony. No family. You were a toddler, screaming your lungs out at 2 a.m. She begged me to stay. Begged. Not because she trusted anyone, but because you only stopped crying in my arms. That's a lie, she muttered, her voice a little less confident now. She looked away, but her hands clenched tighter on the keys. Ask your aunt. Ask her what your mother said during her chemo treatments. Who sat next to her for every session? Who held her hair back while she puked blood? Who bathed her when the nurses refused? It wasn't you. You were busy being too good to even answer your phone. Her cheeks flushed red. A nerve had been hit. I walked over to the mantel and picked up the old silver-framed photo of us three, the one she thought I hadn't noticed her trying to hide away after the funeral. I held it up. You were 10 in this photo. Your mom had just gotten back from rehab. You wouldn't speak to her, but you clung to me like I was your anchor. Remember what you said that day? She stayed silent. You said, "Please don't leave me. You're my real mom." Her eyes darted around the room, like she was searching for an escape route. But the only door was blocked, by the truth. That was a long time ago, she mumbled. Kids say stupid things. Then maybe grown-ups should stop forgetting them. A long silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Finally, she snapped, "It doesn't matter. The will says this house is mine. And if you don't pack your things, I'll have you removed." That's when I smiled. A slow, quiet, knowing smile that made her flinch. "Oh, sweet girl," I said softly, "you really should have read the entire will." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the letter your mother attached to the back. The one you ripped off and threw in the trash without even looking at it." Her smug expression melted just a bit. There was no letter. I turned, walked to my purse, and pulled out a folded, yellowed paper. Her mother's handwriting was unmistakable. She made me promise not to give you this until after the funeral. She knew how you'd react. I opened the letter. She left me this house. But she wanted me to share it with you, if you were ready. Her mouth fell open. You're lying. She left everything in a trust, sweetheart. I'm the trustee. You don't own this place, I manage it. Until you grow up enough to understand what family actually means. Her face paled. Her whole world cracked in real time, and I watched the pieces fall. She stepped back, eyes glassy now, lips trembling. You're doing this to hurt me. I folded the letter and placed it gently on the table. No. I'm doing this because she trusted me to protect what mattered most, you. And then, for the first time in years, I turned my back on her. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I simply walked into the kitchen, put on the kettle, and left her standing there with her lies, her greed, and the weight of the truth finally pressing down. But I knew, this was just the beginning. She didn't leave. Even after I walked away, she just stood there. Frozen. Like the letter in my hand had suddenly pulled the rug out from under her perfect little world. I could hear her breathing, shallow, quick, angry. You can't do this, she finally said, her voice smaller now. You can't just control everything. I didn't turn around. I poured the boiling water into the mug, watching the steam rise like the ghosts of 100 unspoken memories. You want control? I said quietly. Then earn it. Stop pretending you loved your mother more than you resented her. Stop acting like this house means something to you other than square footage and bragging rights. Stop trying to erase me just because I don't fit the picture you tell people. She stepped into the kitchen, arms crossed. You think I don't know what this is about? You're bitter. You were the help, and now you think you're the hero. I let out a bitter laugh. No. I don't think I'm the hero. I think I'm the only one who didn't walk away when things got ugly. She slammed her hand on the counter. You think you're so much better than me. No, I said, setting my mug down and looking at her fully now. But I know I loved her more than you did. Her mouth dropped open like I'd slapped her. Good. Sometimes the truth had to hurt. You were embarrassed of her, I continued, my voice rising. You'd roll your eyes when she showed up late to school. You changed your last name on Facebook. You told people she was your aunt. And when she got sick, really sick, you ghosted her for 5 weeks. I was the one holding her hand while she cried and said, "Why doesn't my daughter love me?" Stop, she said, her voice trembling. She begged me to call you. Every day. Until the day she stopped asking. Shut up. She lunged forward, and for a second, I truly thought she might hit me. But her knees buckled instead, and she collapsed onto the floor. Right there on the kitchen tile she used to crawl across in footy pajamas, she broke. Sobbing. Not silent tears. Ugly crying. Shoulders shaking. Hands pressed to her eyes like she was trying to block out the past. I didn't know, she choked. I didn't know it was that bad. She didn't tell me. I crouched down slowly. She did. You just didn't want to hear it. She looked at me then, eyes bloodshot and full of something that finally resembled truth. I hated her. For leaving me with you. For choosing drugs over me. For calling you more often than she called me. And when I found out she left the house to you, I just felt betrayed? She nodded. Like you'd been replaced? She nodded again. I placed my hand gently on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. She didn't leave it to punish you, I whispered. She left it because she knew you weren't ready to handle the responsibility yet. She didn't want you selling this house to buy a new car or move in with another guy who'd leave in 6 months. She wanted you to have a home. A real one. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her blouse. I've made so many mistakes. So did she, I said. But she tried to make it right. That's what matters. A long silence followed. Just the sound of the kettle clicking off behind us, and the hum of the refrigerator, like the house itself was waiting to see what would happen next. "I want to read the rest of the letter," she said finally. I nodded, stood, and went to get it. I handed it to her, and for once, she took it without attitude. As she read, her face crumbled, piece by piece, line by line. Her mother hadn't written much. Just a single page. But every word hit like a thunderclap. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. And I know you're angry. But please don't let that anger blind you. She raised you. She loved you. More than I ever could when I was sick and selfish. This house belongs to her as much as it ever did to me. I hope you learn to forgive me. And I hope you learn to thank her before it's too late." When she finished, she just stared at the paper in silence. Then, almost in a whisper, "I hated you for staying. Now I hate myself for making you feel like you didn't belong." I looked at her, this broken, angry, mourning girl, and for the first time I saw the child again. The little girl I used to tuck in. The one who'd hold my hand tighter when thunderstorms rolled in. "Then maybe," I said, voice soft now, "it's time we stop hating and start remembering who we are." She didn't speak. She just nodded. But in that silence, something shifted. The fight had broken us both open, but maybe that was what we needed. Because now, we had space to rebuild. The knock at the door was sharp, 3 quick raps, urgent and impatient. We both froze. She looked at me. I looked at her. "Are you expecting someone?" she asked. I shook my head. "No one who knocks like that." She stood slowly, folding the letter her mother wrote and tucking it close to her chest. The weight of grief still hung heavy on her face, but for the first time I could see something else creeping in. Fear. I stepped forward first and opened the door. And there he was. Jake. Still wearing that smug grin like it was stitched onto his face. Leather jacket. Sunglasses on even though the sun had already started to dip. My stomach dropped before he even said a word. "Well, well," he said, arms spread wide like some returning king. "Home sweet home." "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "Relax, baby," he said, brushing past me like I was invisible. "I came for what's mine." I blocked his path before he could go deeper into the house. "You're not welcome here." He took off his sunglasses and cocked an eyebrow at me. "Last I checked, this wasn't your house." "She left it to me," I said. "You can turn around." He laughed. A cold, condescending sound. "Yeah, I heard. The help gets the house, the daughter gets a sympathy card." Cute twist. I stepped closer, nose to nose. "You need to leave." He looked past me, straight at her. "You gonna let her talk to me like that, babe? After everything I helped you with?" Her jaw tightened. "You didn't help me, Jake. You drained my account. You wrecked my credit. You." "I stood by you," he interrupted. "When your mom OD'd again, when you said you didn't want to deal with funeral costs, when you begged me to handle it, I was there. You were there," I cut in, "because you wanted access to her bank info." He looked at me like I was dirt under his shoe. "No one was talking to you." I didn't flinch. "Too bad. I'm the only one here with a backbone." For a moment, I thought he might hit me. His fist clenched. His lip curled. But instead, he turned back to her. "You gonna let her stand between us? After everything?" She stared at him. Then said, softly but firmly, "There is no us. His face darkened. "You don't mean that." "I do," she said. "You came here thinking you could intimidate me. You thought I'd be stupid enough to let you sink your claws into this house. But I'm done being stupid." He stepped closer. "You owe me." "No," she said, eyes fierce now. "I owe her." I swallowed hard. "I know what you're doing," he sneered. "This is your revenge arc, huh? Get her to hate me, turn her against me, kick me out with nothing. I crossed my arms. You did that to yourself. He laughed again, but this time it cracked. Fine, he said. Keep the house. But don't come crying to me when the bills stack up. You think she can keep this place running? She's a babysitter. You'll be broke before winter. She's not just a babysitter, my daughter snapped. She raised me. She saved this family more times than you can count. And if she wants me out tomorrow, I'll pack my things without complaint. That stopped him. His confidence wavered. Just for a second. But I saw it. He hadn't expected her to take a side. He definitely hadn't expected her to choose me. He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. You think you've won, he said, pointing a finger at me. But I'm gonna get mine. One way or another. Then you'd better lawyer up, I said calmly, because the will's airtight, the deed is in my name, and there's nothing you can do but sulk in the driveway. He looked at her one more time, searching for doubt. There was none. Then he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him so hard the windows rattled. We stood in the silence that followed, both catching our breath. Then, she whispered, I almost married that man. I know, I said. She shook her head. I thought love meant tolerating pain. That if someone hurt you, it was your job to fix them. I touched her arm. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink. She sat down at the kitchen table, suddenly exhausted. What do I do now? Now? I said, sitting beside her. Now you start over. With boundaries. With healing. With the truth. She nodded slowly. I think. I want to stay. I smiled. Then let's make this a real home again. For the first time, she smiled back. And I realized, the house wasn't the legacy. She was. The morning sun leaked through the old curtains, casting dusty gold patterns across the floor. For the first time in years, the house felt calm. She had stayed the night, in her old bedroom. I didn't sleep much, but not because I was scared. Because something strange had happened in the silence. I had hope. Until I heard the mailbox clang. I opened the door expecting bills or junk mail. But what I found stopped my breath. A thick envelope. No return address. Handwritten. My name on the front in looping, delicate script I hadn't seen in months. I walked slowly back inside. She was already in the kitchen, pouring coffee. What's that? She asked. I sat down and carefully slit the envelope open. Inside was a single folded sheet of heavy parchment. I unfolded it, and froze. It was another will. Her voice dropped. Is that? Look, I whispered, and slid it across the table. Her eyes widened as she scanned the contents. It was signed. Notarized. Dated just 6 weeks before her mother passed. And it named someone else. Everything, the house, the bank accounts, the jewelry, even the car, was left to a man named Reverend Paul Whitaker. Neither of us said a word for a long moment. I've never heard that name, she finally said. I have, I whispered. She looked up at me sharply. He used to come by once a month, I said slowly. Talk to your mother. They always met in private. I thought he was some grief counselor. Someone she trusted from her church days. She hasn't been to church in years. I know, I said. That's why I never asked questions. The silence turned cold. This can't be real, she said. Why would she give everything to some stranger? My voice was barely above a whisper. Because maybe he wasn't a stranger. Her hand gripped her coffee mug tightly. You think she was seeing him? I don't know. She looked up, eyes wet with confusion and disbelief. Then what does that make all this? What does that make me? Some accident in a bigger story? No, I said, voice shaking. It makes you the only person who still cared for her even when she stopped caring for herself. She stood up suddenly, pushing the chair back. So what? After all this, Jake's gone, I'm finally trying to reconnect, and now this reverend walks in and claims the house? He hasn't yet, I said. We don't even know if this document is legal. It's notarized. So was the other one. We looked at each other, two women holding two wills, and not a clue which one held the truth. Then she said something I hadn't expected. I want to meet him. My stomach turned. Are you sure? I need to look in his eyes, she said. And ask him what she meant to him. What we meant to her. The next day, we found him. Reverend Paul Whitaker was listed in a local directory as the head of a small private chapel across town. We drove there in silence. The chapel was modest. White stone, ivy creeping up the sides, a blue wooden door with a faded cross carved into it. He answered after the second knock. Gray hair. Warm eyes. A face that looked like it had seen more funerals than weddings. Yes, he asked gently. She stepped forward. Are you Reverend Paul Whitaker? He nodded. She held up the second will. Then you know why we're here. He took one look and sighed. I was wondering when that would show up. She blinked. So it's real? Yes, he said. But it's not what you think. I stepped forward. Then maybe you should tell us what is. He looked at us both, then opened the door wider. Come in. The chapel smelled of old wood and candles. He led us to a small office in the back. Sat us down. And then he told us a story we never expected. I met your mother 5 years ago, he began. She came to a grief counseling group I run. She never missed a week, not once. She talked about her regrets, her past, her brokenness, but mostly, she talked about you. He looked at her, eyes gentle. She said you reminded her of herself. And that terrified her. Her voice was barely a whisper. Why? Because she believed she had already ruined her life, and she was scared she was ruining yours too. She bit her lip hard. She asked me to draft a will, he said. She was paranoid about money. She thought if she left it to you directly, Jake would bleed you dry. She didn't trust lawyers. She didn't trust much of anyone. So why you? I asked. She said I was neutral. That I'd know when it was safe to transfer things. Did she ever tell you when? He shook his head. She passed before she could. We all sat there in silence. Then she said, so you're not here to fight us for it? He smiled sadly. I'm here to honor her wishes. All of them. He reached into his desk and pulled out a sealed envelope. She wrote you this. Said to give it only if you came on your own. She took it with trembling hands. I reached over and held hers. Whatever that letter said, we would face it together. Her fingers trembled as she held the envelope. It was aged, the edges soft from being handled, but never opened. On the front, in familiar cursive, was written, to my daughter, when she's ready to understand. She sat on the church bench like she was bracing for a storm. I stayed beside her, silent, as she opened the flap, slid the paper out, and unfolded her mother's final words. I watched her eyes dance across the page, her breath catching in small waves. Then she stopped. And she read it aloud. My dearest Emily. If you are reading this, then it means you finally came, not to take, but to ask. And that means more to me than anything else in this world. Because for a long time I didn't think you would. I've made many mistakes, Em. The biggest was pretending I was whole when I wasn't. I pushed you away, I gave you cold comfort, I let you chase the affection I never gave, and I'm so sorry. I saw how Jake treated you. I saw how his words broke you. I saw how you smiled through it, like I used to when your father did the same to me. That's why I hired the babysitter. Not to watch the house. But to watch you. Her voice cracked. She looked at me, eyes wide. But I already knew. I had seen the bruises behind her smiles. The way she flinched when the door slammed. I'd stayed silent when I shouldn't have. But her mother hadn't. Keep going, I whispered. She looked back down, her hands shaking. She's not just your babysitter, Emily. She's the woman I trusted more than anyone, to step in where I failed. She saw your pain when I ignored it. She stayed when you ran. She picked up your pieces and never asked for credit. So I want to be clear now, before the lawyers, before the fighting begins. The house, the accounts, everything, it's yours. But not without her. Clause 19, in the official will, says this clearly. All inheritances named in this document are conditional upon continued, documented support and acknowledgement of the caregiver named as Emily's legal guardian at the time of record. That was her. You called her just the babysitter. But she's the only one who never left. She looked up at me again, tears streaming silently down her face. I didn't say a word. Because how do you respond to something like that? She went back to reading, her voice barely a whisper now. If you're reading this, it means you're still here, and so is she. Don't waste another day pretending she doesn't matter. Because without her, you wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it. This house is yours. But your future? That's a choice. Choose wisely. With love. Mom. The church was quiet, the air heavy with everything unspoken. Then, Emily stood up slowly and walked across the small room. She put the letter gently on Reverend Whitaker's desk. And then, she did something I never expected. She fell to her knees in front of me. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I blinked. She held my hands. I was so caught up in proving myself to people who didn't care, I never saw the one person who did. I touched her cheek. You were a child, I said. You were hurting. And you stayed, she whispered. Even when I didn't deserve it. I smiled softly. Love doesn't check for receipts. She stood up and hugged me, tight, sobbing into my shoulder like she hadn't done since she was 10. And I held her, all of her, like I had 1,000 times before. This time, she didn't pull away. We left the chapel with more than just answers. We left with peace. The house stayed in her name. Reverend Whitaker helped us file the right documents, dissolve the false claim, and make sure no loopholes could be used again. And Emily? She changed. She started calling every day. Bringing groceries when I didn't ask. Fixing up the backyard her mom had loved so much. And one afternoon, she came in, placed a new key in my hand, and said, "From now on, this is our home. I don't need recognition. I don't need a title or a plaque. But I'll tell you what I do need, and what every person like me deserves. To be seen. To be heard. To not be called just the babysitter when I was the one holding it all together. Because sometimes, the people you overlook are the ones who saved you. And love, real love, doesn't need blood. It needs courage.